Michael's in Portland, Oregon. Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm good, Dave. How are you?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
Dave, I'm a co-owner of a small family-owned medical practice. Last year, we grossed $2.2 million in revenue. We have 24 team members. This year, we have run out of cash reserves and pulled out of our own personal emergency fund recently to make payroll.
Why?
If anything else, why?
Why'd you run out of money?
We had a cyber attack in healthcare and it slowed down our revenues significantly. We've upped our amount of patients, rallied our team, but our team is feeling maxed out, and we're right at the verge of making our base expenses, but we have nowhere else to pull from, Dave.
Wait a minute. Why are you not profitable? The cyber attack?
A major cyber attack slowed down all of our revenues, and so we
slowed down your receivables.
Yes.
So you're running Medicare?
No. We mainly just
who owes you money that didn't pay you because of a cyber attack?
All that money has now come back into the business.
Okay. So that was a cash flow problem. That's not a profit problem, right?
No.
Are you profitable if things are operating the way they're supposed to? You have margin.
Barely.
Why?
We had to see more patients per week, which we've been doing, and we're having to renegotiate with some of our 1099 providers to make it more equitable for us to continue to do business.
A 1099 provider?
Contract provider. So
I know. So you've got a doctor in there on 1099?
We have some nurse practitioners and naturopathic doctors that are on 1099.
Okay. Which is a lot more expensive than if they were on payroll.
Yes. Last year, we started our first full-time nurse practitioner as a W-2 employee, which has been
So if you did less business with less people on payroll and or contract, you could get your margins back. Is the fact that you went contract rather than employee for your expansion, is that where your profits went? Because I know our contract, when we have contract line items on our P&L, I start screaming because my payroll costs just went way up.
That's what I learned last year, Dave, is we started converting them over slowly to W-2s to make it more profitable.
Yeah.
So we're in negotiations with them.
I mean, if I hire a software engineer on 1099, it costs me considerably more than if I hire them full-time.
I totally agree.
Okay, that's what I'm relating to. I'm not sure about your world, but okay, so your profits, were you ever profitable?
Yes, Dave, we did our debt-free scream in 2020.
When was the last time that you were thrilled with your profit margin?
Last year.
Okay, what changed? Because the cyber attack was a cash flow problem that has been rectified now, and so that wasn't where your profit went. Agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. So what's different from last year then?
We were getting the end of the pandemic stabilization money, and I didn't catch that was adding to our profits. So we had to increase the amount of patients we've seen per week.
Okay, so you weren't as profitable as you thought. You had government subsidy.
Right. Yep.
Okay, so the difference is that so basically you didn't really have a great profit. You just got a government check.
Yes.
So your business model was already broken back there, but it was masked by the government subsidy. Am I missing that?
You got it nailed, Dave.
Okay. All right. So was there a point that the business model without government subsidy was working?
Barely. That's a great question, Dave.
Because what I'm trying to figure out is where your profits disappeared to. I get that they disappeared maybe a year before last, 3 years ago, but we covered that up with the pandemic. And then when that money went away, the pandemic money went away, then now this year we're even made it worse with 1099 people. I kind of getting that overall picture. So, but what I'm always looking for is the why. I'm like that little 10-year-old boy. Why? What is broken in the business model? And it sounds like that you're not getting enough revenue. Your business model is you're not getting paid enough per patient to justify the payroll. That's what it sounds like.
Yes, and we've been diving in. We have some coding issues that will help us increase the amount of profits. We're making our providers more profitable with the claims they submit, and these are things we've learned through this process.
It's kind of what I think they call practice management, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm trying to learn with you, okay? That's what I heard it was called. I mean, I know docs and people that do these things, and we've got them in the EntreLeadership audience. I talk to them, but I've never run one of these things, so I don't have hands-on experience, but I'm trying to get there with it. So here's the thing. If I've got a business that is not profitable, it has to do with anything. It's a basic thing. The business model, what is driving my expenses up, and what can I do to raise my prices and manage the expense model better? Because if I can get the expenses down and get the price per unit, so to speak, up, then I've got margin on every patient I see, and my profits return, and maybe for the best ever they've ever been, without forgiving, in your case, without losing quality, which we would call patient care, I guess, in your world. But I don't want to put out crap in order to get there, because that's ruining my future, right? I can't do bad work, crappy work, but I do. In other words, if you cut down your patient time seeing a patient to the point that the patient feels like they were cattle rushing through a chute, then they're not going to keep coming back. You're going to lose the patient, right?
Absolutely.
But you do have to manage the amount of time each of these providers see. That's part of practice management, because if you don't, that's your widgets going off the conveyor belt, right? We have to go slow enough that the widget has quality, but fast enough that we get enough of them off the belt each day. Is that how it works?
Very insightful, Dave. Yes.
Okay. All right. And so is that what you're working on?
Yes, it is.
All right. So I'm not putting money in this unless I see how I have fixed it.
Agreed.
Okay, so have you raised the price per unit, so to speak? I don't know what the proper terminology in your world is, but the price per unit enough that it justifies the expense, or have you lowered the expense per unit, your variable expenses versus your variable revenues, in order to create profit? Because that's where it's going to come from here, because your fixed expenses are probably just that. They're probably fixed. Stuff like rent, that's probably set. But it sounds like your payroll's too high to me. It sounds like you got too dead many people in the building.
Very likely. Possible.
Yeah. I think you got some people twiddling their thumbs, checking their Facebook account, because they ain't got enough work. I don't know, but 24 people on $2 million is pretty strong.
That's true. Half of them are the providers that are doing the care.
Okay, but still, what are the other half doing? A certain amount of they're doing ops functions, right? Operational functions. Yes. Yeah. I get it. But okay, let me back up. I've been keep diving on the grenade here. I'm trying to what's the best thing I can do to help you now that I kind of got my arms around it a little bit?
So I think, Dave, that we're right there at the break-even point. If anything else goes wrong, the only thing I don't do debt. I did my debt-free scream. I don't want to go into debt. So I'm thinking I have an emergency fund personally. That's my last of my cash reserves, and then we're really hurting. So we are adjusting our expenses. We're increasing the amount of patients. We've got a lot of things showing we're headed in the right direction. But my question, I guess, is if another thing went bad, another cyber attack, what would you do? Again, I don't like debt. I don't like that at all.
I'm not going to, that's not the answer. If I'm in your situation, I'm not using my emergency fund either. My personal emergency fund from my house, because my wife would leave. So it's not an option. We don't touch that. It's sacred. Because it's not a business emergency fund. That's retained earnings.
Right.
What would I do in your situation? I would be forced to address the number one expense item in your P&L, which is your payroll. I'd be forced to let some people go because I wouldn't be able to pay them.
Okay.
Now, before I did that, I would take no money coming home.
That's an option. We're looking at decreasing our salaries.
Yeah, it's not a permanent thing, but like, for instance, when pandemic hit and we had to shut down entire segments of our business here, we told our team, we've got a certain amount of cash, and if the lines cross, meaning that we go from profitable to unprofitable, we're going to first use the cash to cover the difference. Secondly, leadership will take no pay. Thirdly, we will start having to furlough some of you. Fourthly, we'll start permanently laying off some of you. But we're going to take no pay long before we get there, and you're going to get lots and lots and lots of communication before we get there. So, but I think you probably got a 5-person leadership team that needs to be in the know on this and say, guys, we've got to get costs down and revenues up. This is not working. It's not sustainable. This is not a hobby. It's a business. We have to make a profit here. And if we can't do that, then we're there. So your next stage is you're out of cash. You can't make payroll. And so you're going to have to start laying people off. That's where you would be. And those will probably be your ops people because your other providers are making you revenue. They make you more than they cost you every time they show up, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Yes. So if it should be all the time, not pretty much. It ought to be 100%. I don't need them in the building unless they're making me money. They're freaking 1099. I do not need you here unless you make me more than you cost me. That's easy. That's a permanent decision. Now but overall, conceptually, the pain that you're facing is, in order to try to stay open, we're going to cut payroll, and it's probably going to be some ops people, some of the non-provider people. It may be that you're not getting enough out of some of these providers and you need to cut them loose. They may be costing you more than they are making you. And I would start looking at the individual production on that. I look at those providers almost as salespeople, in that they need to make me more than they cost me. And if they don't, then I can't justify keeping them because I'm not creating enough revenue there. So these are hard questions, Michael. It's emotional. And it's very difficult. But yeah, I would not use my personal emergency fund. I'd gather my leadership team together. I would cut your pay temporarily down. Say the first step is I'm going to take $1, or I'm going to take $10, or I'm going to take whatever number of dollars that you can get by on in order to get this thing moving. We have got to get our expenses down. And man, you probably need to lay 2 people off. You probably need to find 2 of your 24. That'll give you some instantaneous margin next Friday when payroll comes out. I guess. I don't know. But you got to look at that and make that decision. Or you say, I'm going to give this 30 more days, and then I'm going to have to do that. And then I'm going to give it 60 more days, and I'm going to have to lay 4 more off. Because your number one line item expense in almost all of you listening in your small business world is payroll. And we don't lay people off to try to make a profit on their back. That's not the point. We simply are not going to have the money to pay them. And so we've got to lay them off because we can't pay them. It's a matter of integrity. So that's different than corporate America laying people off just to increase stock price. That's not what we're going to tell you to do ever. And Michael, what you're facing is painful, but man, get up above this and run right straight into the fire and put it out. Run into the building. Don't run from the building. Don't sit back with your hands over your ears going la, 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 la. I didn't hear that, by the way. I heard you addressing it, but I'm going to encourage you. This is high stress, high courage. Running a business is not for sissies, and you're right in the middle of this. So get some good men and women in your life that are coaching you from the side, that are friends, that are pushing you on, your wife pushing you on. pushing you through this, and then, make the hard calls to see if you can turn the corner with this thing. And but you've got to get it moving, or you're making a big decision, which is to finish the thing off. And that's necessary endings. When we lose hope in something completely, I don't think I can get this profitable no matter what I do. When you say that, turn the key, walk away. There's no magic beans. There's no magic beans, Jack. No beanstalk. Not happening. So you got to look at it and go, this is the way it really is. And that's a very, very difficult thing to do. But I don't think you're there yet. I think you've still got some analysis to do. Is where the freaking money going? It's a Jerry Maguire thing. Show me the money. I'm looking at the P&L. I'm looking at the cash flow statements. I'm looking at the deposits. I'm looking at each provider, what they cost versus what's coming in per provider. Show me the money, Jerry Maguire. That's where we're going with that. So good stuff, man. You're a good man. Keep pushing. Keep pushing. You got this. You can do it. But I think you've uncovered the weaknesses. Now we got to backfill for them. This is the EntreLeadership Podcast.